there's so much stuff that we do, and it's like, oh, this seems silly, but then you do it, and you realize it has a pretty big benefit.
Yeah.
It
Learn so much.
You learn a lot. Here's the other thing: is it push hands seriously helps with your balance.
Yes.
It especially with, like, for instance, our combinations that we're about to do. But it also helps you with making sure that you have a good plant, because a lot of students are like, they don't know where their feet should go. There's something sort of weird, awkward. And
That's so true.
yeah, I'm not going to specifically. I'm not picking on any individual student. If you think I am, I'm not. But this is a lot of times we'll see students where they have some sort of weirdness with their stance, and if you go and you do push hands for a little while, you'll start to kind of feel where your feet should be, because everybody's different. Sometimes we'll kind of direct people so that they're not like standing in a line like this or standing like this. So there's general guidelines we can give, but everybody's different. Okay. So when push hands comes back, it's going to be beneficial for any Kung Fu student to actually do push hands. It's also helpful to do a little bit of Tai Chi. So a lot of this stuff that I've taught a lot of stuff in this class, and a lot of it actually came from my Tai Chi. So yeah, so it's not strictly just from my Kung Fu training. A lot of the waist stuff is very Tai Chi. Where your feet are, very Tai Chi. That's something that I kind of want to get into. Well, I got into last class, and that was to make sure that when we're. So let me recap. So last class, one of the things I talked about was I said I want us to kind of feel what our combinations are doing, how our combinations work. We want to make sure that our combinations actually flow rather than just being a series of discrete strikes. Okay, they need to actually work with each other.
Yes, sir.
Today, I want to work on our that front punch, lunge punch, back reverse, side kick, back punch. Because I think this one really kind of exemplifies one of the aspects of this, and that is that we keep our momentum and our waist going. But I want to look at our feet on this one, okay?
Sir.
Before we get into the waist side of this. So one of the things that we always talk about, well, I mean, I hear this a lot with Tai Chi, but we talk about it when we get into our form. You're still doing Poison Hands and Iron Body, so you haven't quite gotten into this yet, but one of the things we will say when you're learning a new form is follow the feet first. Because this is not intuitive to us. Anytime you start a new form, you're going to be watching those hands. So what are those hands doing? And it's like, but now he's in some sort of weird position. I don't know how he got there. Because what you should be doing, you should be following the feet.
Sir.
And then once you've got the feet down, then you can do the hand movements. But with our with that combination that I just talked about, we're going to do our bamboo step that we just did into that punch. And then there's going to be that pivot here. So that first pivot after I've done my bamboo punch is going to put me here. And so we have to do a little bit of a micro hop in order to get that pivot. Bamboo punch, pivot, punch. And then we're going to have to reset that foot for that back reverse side kick.
Yes, sir.
And then when we land, this foot's going to be available for that pivot here, and then that last pivot for that last punch. Okay. So we're gonna go this way in the room.
Yes, sir.
We've got the room for it. Start with that right foot forward, ready stance. It's going to be our front hand front punch, front hand lunge punch, back reverse side kick, back punch. Okay. So we're just going to go back and forth up and down the room, practicing this a little bit.
Sir.
Focus on the feet a little bit more than the punches.
Yes, sir.
Don't go too fast. Focus on the feet.
Sir.
Focus on those feet.
your oxygen now.
All of them will. If there's a kick in there, it's going to do that.
True.
Okay, Aiden, here's what I want us to focus on. So right now you're working on kind of making sure you have your turns. But what I want us to focus on is we're planting our feet for every single one of these. Okay, so don't start a kick, don't start a punch until you feel your feet are completely planted.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So like right now, I'm gonna say this for everybody, even on camera, is that when we do our punches, it's not a good idea for your feet to be off the ground for your punches.
Yes, sir.
Or if you still be like you're gonna do that side kick, you'd still be spinning while you're doing the side kick.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Or if your feet are you're not quite stable when you're in that lunge punch, you want to make sure that you're actually firmly planted on the ground. You have a root.
Yes,
And that
sir.
root needs to be because when we do our punches, it's not just the fact that I'm turning around and I'm throwing a punch to get this punch out, this kick out, this punch. It's the fact that I still want us to adhere to the principles that our punches are still coming from those feet,
Yes, sir.
from the feet, punching from my feet, kicking, starting with the opposite leg.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's why I wanted us to focus on the feet. Sorry, I wasn't clear, but yeah, it's still that whole principle of the punches and our kicks start in the feet.
Sir.
There you go. So, also for your lunge punch. Oh, team. So let's go over a little bit of, we can make that lunge punch a little bit more powerful.
Sure.
Sure.
And that is, you're gonna see, I've done my front and front punch. Whenever I go into my lunge punch, I want there to be enough power that I'm actually pulling that back foot.
Almost like sliding
Yeah,
into
you're
it.
almost sliding into it. My front foot is completely planted. Then going into this, so whenever I land, front foot is still solid. But I've got that momentum coming from my body to go into it.
Sir.
Sure.
So you're almost like reaching.
It's almost like it's not even a reach, is the interesting thing on this,
Huh.
is that I'm not reaching,
Yeah, you're still balanced.
I'm still balanced.
Interesting. But you're almost in like a horse stance.
I'm almost in a horse stance. It's what we refer to as our staggered horse
Yeah,
stance.
that's right.
Would
That
this
comes
work,
up in that staff form too.
Yes,
would this work with the up kick as well as the side kick?
it can.
I think it's worth just practicing those first two, because that's kind of
Yes.
like,
Yeah, just those first two is gonna be good to,
because yeah, you're right, that lunge punch, there's a lot to it. Yeah, to really make it good.
to make it good.
Because you're right, it is the hips.
It's the hips.
I didn't think about that.
That one, okay. Let's rewind on that one a little bit. I like whenever I hear students talk about this. Because you will hear me say, it's the hips. It's never about spinning your body. It's never about spinning the legs. It's about those hips. So, when we do our punch, you're gonna feel that right here. Even my first punch that I do, my hips go into that first punch.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So it's always gonna go up to those hips. The hips are gonna be where most of your power is gonna go. Okay? Hips, hips. And then even on that last one, pushing off that back foot through those hips.
So would you say, like, if you're trying to quantify each punch, like they should be relatively equal in terms of power?
Pretty much.
Okay.
I mean,
initially I always thought of this lunge punch as like a little bit less of like a power punch, but not necessarily.
no, not necessarily. I mean, this one's gonna have, it's gonna have a different kind of momentum up behind it.
Right.
Because that front punch, you're only gonna get so much.
Right. You can
That
almost get
lunge.
more on the lunge punch.
You're gonna get a lot more with that lunge.
Right, because it's like that. It's like your backhand front punch.
Yeah.
kind
Exactly.
of. Okay.
Except now, instead of stopping here, we're throwing our whole body into it.
Yeah, I never really understood that until now.
to go a little bit slower into it.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Because you're actually gonna get your punch is gonna go a lot further the deeper in that stance you go.
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay. What we're gonna work on now, is I want you to commit to those punches. Because right now it kind of feels like you're pulling them. It's just a little bit of a punch, a little bit of a punch. What I want to see is a nice, good, solid punch. So there should be a little bit of, almost like it's a recoil. So, so whenever I do my punch, I don't want to stop right here. If I'm gonna go off camera for a bit, but if I'm doing my punches and I'm here and I pull it, I'm not gonna get an effective punch. Okay? You still want to be within a distance where you're gonna be able to keep that elbow a little bit bent, but it's still hit. So see, my elbow is still bent, and I didn't pull it. But you can see there's a big difference between missing and actually hitting. And so your punch is going to be pretty weak when your elbow is about this bent. It's going to be really strong when it's just that bent, okay?
Sure.
And then when you get to the end of it, I want you to tighten up that fist, just make it as hard as you can, and then flip right back and loosen it, okay?
Sure.
Good, yes. It's a little different, doesn't it?
Sure.
Floyd, yes. Floyd, yes. Good, good, yeah. Making sure that this goes all the way. Now, the thing is, you need to make sure that you don't hyperextend it, because I've had a lot of students where, like, they pull their punches, and all of a sudden they start doing this, and it's like, well, now they're going too far, they're going completely straight. So, it's gonna be, we have to strike that balance, figure out where it's at. All right. Take a short break,
Yes,
come
sir.
back, we're gonna work on our 8 diagram staff.
Yes, sir.
Sir,